Entonces yo ahora me voy a pasar al canal de traducción. Los que quieren pueden apretar abajo español y van a empezar a escuchar la traducción. Okay, Rebbe.
Okay. It's a very special opportunity for me to be able to communicate to a community that I feel very close to. I was given questions by some very intelligent people who I know. I don't mean Daniel Segal, he's also intelligent, but to direct me on what to speak about. I will be speaking a bit more slowly than a Native American. I hope that this is not going to be too quick for you or too slow. Okay. What do I do when people in life want something else in life than what I want? They have different priorities, differences in religion, differences in how to spend or not spend money. Yeah. How much or if do we give tzedakah, charity? Do we ask for money if we need it or do we not? How careful do you need to be about this virus? All of these differences will create tension between a couple. Now you have to understand the single most important thing in a child's life is shalom bayit. I'm going to cut out stories, any other thing that might slow us down. I'm just giving to you the essence of what I have to say, but our time is short and our time is precious. Okay? Children's self-image, children's sense of optimism, children's abilities to cope with difficulties will depend to a very great deal in is there peace in the home? Is there shalom bayit? In addition, when there isn't, the children can often disrespect both parents and the messages that the parents want to give to the child that do hold in common and are precious to both of them will not be heard. And I said I wasn't going to tell too many stories, and I will say a few. I met a boy, he was a teenager. I knew him basically his whole life. And he didn't work out in school. He had learning disabilities. He came to Israel very late. It was very difficult for him. And he ended up on the street in Ben Yehuda as a teenager. He told me he never took drugs, which then was de rigueur, which was everyone did. So I asked him, how did you manage to do that? He has amazing parents, amazing parents. I said, how did you manage to do that? So he said, I have too much respect for myself. That came from his home. So you must be able to get together on these things. These difficulties happen, okay? They happen. And then it's not a sign of a sickness. It happens, okay? Now let's take a look at some introductory ideas, and then we're going to address these points on a practical level. Bezos Hashem, okay? Who said that conflict is always a problem? Sometimes things need to be clarified, and could be both sides have merit. It's how how.
Me fueron a poner la traducción.
You're not telling me un momento, por favor, are you? To everyone.
Que esté la traducción simultánea. Hay una forma que la
Pero yo no quiero traducción.
There's someone, 1 second, Rabbi, sorry, we're trying to fix the translation. Y hay alguien con el micrófono abierto, además. 1 second, Rabbi, sorry. Just we haven't been able to figure out the translation yet.
Have they heard me? They haven't heard me at all?
Yeah, no, everybody has been hearing everything but in English. So we're trying to work out the translation.
Okay, you tell me when to continue or where to start from.
Yeah. No sé, Moravina, si es que
Estoy acá.
no han podido solucionarlo.
Estamos en esto.
Hay que poner mutear a todos los micrófonos porque hay gente con el micrófono abierto. Bueno, yo se lo puedo hacer también. 1 second, Rabbi, I'm sorry. Okay, Rabbi, we're okay to go. I'm done. People were understanding still now, so it's not a problem. Most people were understanding, but now we fixed it, and I'll continue translating. Let's just go on from where we went from where I was holding, and I'll continue in Spanish now. Okay.
Okay. Differences of opinion are normal. It's how they're expressed, and do children feel that there's been some kind of resolution? Children are dominant emotion, so when the argument, the disagreement is emotional, it affects them. It's the emotion that affects them. And has there been a conclusion? Again, differences of opinion are sometimes healthy, that there are different ways of looking at something and coming to a conclusion. It's not a battle. It's not who's going to win. A person needs to respect the other side. Where are they coming from? Everyone is coming from somewhere. Sometimes a person grew up in a home where money was very tight, but not only was it tight, it was emotional. It was emotional. And money in a poor family wasn't emotional. In a wealthy family, money meant status. It meant power. Money means only the ability to get to buy what you need to buy. That's what money is. It's technical. But people are coming from different emotional places when it comes to money. And this is the theme of the first part that I'm answering you. A person has to be able to see where someone else is. I can think about how I feel, or I can think about how you feel, but I can't do both at the same time. So when you have disagreements, when you have disagreements, it's okay. It's healthy. People have disagreements, but does not question the validity of the marriage. You married someone because you saw what was right in them, and you have to know they're coming from somewhere. In Hebrew, chatan means a groom, and chatan means a son-in-law. A good groom, a good chatan, Rav Hirsch Zechariah Levacha says, is someone who knows who his father-in-law is and respects his father-in-law. The same thing in the word kala. Bride means daughter-in-law. I respect where you came from. I try and understand where you came from. So this skill is vitally important, and you work things out. And children have to know that things are worked out. Sometimes you say so openly, sometimes he or she could see how the parents have come to a conclusion. Okay? Disagreements are a problem when there's a generally unhealthy relationship. Sometimes the difference of opinion are not rooted essentially in the things you're disagreeing about, but it's part of a greater pattern of disagreement. And that needs to be taken care of. Okay? As far as how careful to be about the virus, I've always avoided to give you personal opinions about things. In my opinion, we don't know enough about this virus. A doctor who says he knows, forget it. It's not true. He doesn't know. The Ministry of Health in this country keeps changing its mind, and the doctors keep changing their mind. There's the after effects of corona could be long-lasting and devastating. They could be. And just because you got it once doesn't mean after a few months you can't get it again. And it doesn't mean that young people get lighter cases. These are things that are realities. So my opinion is be as careful as you possibly can. Lean to the side of being more careful than to the side of being less careful. I have not let any of my grandchildren, except once, from a big distance outside the house. None of them come into my house. And I love them. And it's mutual. They don't come into my house. I've left my home for any length of time, only twice in the last 4 months. You need to take care of yourselves. If you love yourself and love your family, do the best you can. Of course, there needs to be balanced. If a person will have emotional issues, that needs to be considered. But in my opinion, do not rely on doctors who say, it'll be all right. No, they don't know. Okay? So now, when we have to be able to see what's right in the spouse and what's good and savor it. Sometimes there are religious issues. Sometimes marriages begin that way, and sometimes they happen that way over time. I said, I'm going to cut out stories, but Rav Shach, Zecher Tzadik Levrocha, once said to someone who was becoming more religious, and his wife was not interested. So he said to him, what's it her fault that you became religious? You have to accommodate. Now, she can't involve you in her averas, such as kashrus, family purity. There are things that, that you share together. So there has to be, how do you say? You have to give way for it. You have to give slack. Okay, but things that are not mutually shared, the same pot. So you love a person, you respect a person from where they were coming from and who they are, and you respect who they're going to be. I know of divorces. Harvard University has, according to Eli Glazer, whose name might be familiar to you, those who were involved with Aish, when he was in Boston for many years, Harvard has a workshop for the youngest in the family to help them prepare for a parental divorce. I had one student, she was the youngest, and the mother wanted to go out and become a detective. Yeah. She doesn't have children at home anymore, and he didn't. He wanted her just to stay home and be the same as before. Should they have gotten divorced? I don't know. But it's because sometimes there's changes in life situations. A happy marriage is you let someone become the best that they can become and give to them and savor their success. The same with your own children. Who said they have to be like you? Savor them, love them, appreciate them. The Rav Gershenfeld from Mechon Shlomo says that the word pater in Latin means father. The English word patron is a Spanish also, but I don't know. Yeah, is a patron of someone who supports things. A parent will support a child and believe in them. Of course, things that the child is going to hurt themselves and do damage to themselves, etc., into their life, etc. So a parent can't support that. But there should be a healthy enough relationship that is technical that I can support that. All right? And you need to know that these things are going to be difficult. I always say, Daniel always remembers me saying that someone who teaches mountain climbing used to say, those who only look at the top of the mountain never make it. What about all the steps, all the difficulties? Treasure them. Recently, I spoke to someone who had to go back into rehab for alcoholism. So I said to him, there's light at the end of the tunnel. He said, no. They tell us in rehab, the way will be long and difficult. And I realized I was telling him to look at the top of the mountain. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And these professionals were saying, no. Don't look at the top of the mountain. The way is going to be long and hard, but it's worth it. And you love someone, you appreciate them, and you appreciate where they're coming from. Money is emotional, but it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be technical. Because people are worried about money. Okay, maybe she came from a place like that, or he did. Just like if someone, his wife and him used to travel the world, doing expensive golf courses. They love to golf together, and then one of them gets arthritis. Are they going to get divorced? Or they love eating in plush restaurants all over the world, and one of them gets diabetes. Are they going to get divorced? If that was the only thing bringing them together, maybe. But there should be so many things that you share in life. But the main point I want to make over here before we move on, is that understand that your main work, your main is to put in effort to understand where someone else is coming from. Now, everything I'm telling you is true about children also. If a child says there's a monster under the bed, you don't say there's no monster. I don't see any monster, okay? But any monster in this house I can take care of. So please, accept where people are, appreciate where people are, understand where people are, and you're in a different place. But when you know where they are and feel where they are, so then you can work things out. There's no anger. You know, when you comfort a mourner, you have to know, where are they? What can they hear? What can't they hear? A student of mine lost her husband. She was my student when she was 18. She said 24 years she knows me. I didn't keep count, but we've been in touch. There's time to cry. And that crying is a eulogy for her husband. She spent 3.5 months with him in a hospital. They both grew closer. But she has to know there's time afterwards, but it's too early to say it. People can't hear things. Don't say things that won't be able to be heard. Okay. Let's go further. Yeah? How to create a healthy routine when everyone is living and staying at home all day. Now, routine does not mean the same thing every day at the same time. It does not mean that. It means a plan for that day, a predictable schedule. And people have to be occupied positively. Yeah? From approximately 6 years old and up, children should have input into what they want in their day. It doesn't mean that everything they say they should get, but they give input. And they should be active. Puzzles, paintings, drawings. You put up for the week a drawing, his puzzle that he did. Some of them you're going to put into a frame and hang it on the wall as a memory of such times. Now you need to understand that these times are times of great growth, which is one of your questions. I once met someone who was in Auschwitz, and he said he wouldn't give it up for anything, but he just doesn't want to do it again. Not again. But he grew tremendously. How a person grows, it depends on the beforehand. And maybe if we have time, we'll be able to look at that. But the beforehand is I'm never alone. There's someone with a capital S is always with me. It's hard to feel that. Another student who I know since she's 18, she's a grandmother now, many times. I know her over the years. She's also married to my chavrusa. So she told me a few weeks ago that she interviewed a survivor of the Holocaust. She's 96. When she was 16, when she was 11, her mother smuggled her out of the ghetto and said to her, you're going to be the only member of this family to live. For 3 years, she was alone in the forest until the Germans caught her and they sent her to Auschwitz. It was late in the war and she was young, and Bezos Hashem, she survived. So she told my chavrusa's wife that she said the time alone in the forest was harder for her than being in Auschwitz. In Auschwitz, she had other people sharing her situation. In the forest, she was alone. You must understand that you are never alone. And if that's too hard a principle to feel now, it needs working on. Look back at your life and see all the times your hand was held. And it's not our subject, but I'm responding. Well, that's what you have to do in your home. Your children, your spouse is not alone. There's someone there who cares about them. You don't always agree, and sometimes there are difficulties. But alone you're not. You'll never be alone. The difficulty of people who are in the hospital, especially the ones who are on respirators, they're alone. In this week, in the TED, it talks about people who have antibodies. For now, the antibodies go down with time. 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and you lose them. They say it depends on how hard you got it. If you got a really difficult case, you have more and better antibodies, which says a lot to me. The more a person goes through, the bigger they can be. So they're going into the hospitals and all dressed like spacemen. Hadassah hospitals not take any chances, but they're there. It's the sense of loneliness that causes a person to break. Your job now during this time is your children need to know they're never alone. Another suggestion, and this I say with trepidation, if you have and use visual entertainment or visual capacity, you should show them films of people who went through difficult times. The Chileno miners who stuck together. It was an amazing time. I'm sure they have documentaries on it. Or World War II, during the Blitz, or individuals who went through things and are interviewed. If there's a link, if there's a website called I'm sure there is, the Diaspora Museum in Tel Aviv University. It's a very wealthy place of Jewish history and thousands of films. You watch the films, and then the main thing is you discuss them. It's a time when we sit together and watch it. Sometimes there are nature films, but documentaries. Now, as far as use of internet, most of the time, it should be the discussion, not the watching. It has to be something child is active, not passive, and just teach me. That's why people are having so much trouble today, is because they never had to develop an inner world. It just make me happy. How to control this use. So I'm sorry if I'm going to embarrass him. I'm asking for Mechila in advance, even though it's been made, is Daniel Halpern. I've been putting his name out there around the world. People are often least respected where they live. I respect him. I cannot talk about his professionalism. I'm not qualified. But as a human being, wow. He recommended a book called Glow Kids. I read it. My son-in-law read it. If you have questions about getting kids off of internet, and when they see things that are not good, whether it's violence, immorality, bad language, there's two things you need to know. One is it's not good for them to see it, but there's something that's much worse. And I hope Daniel Halpern would agree with me. It makes them numb. The more you see something, the less you feel it, the less it touches you. You don't want a child who's inured, who's numb. It doesn't bother him to see cruelty, and even if it's on a screen, and even if in his head he knows, well, you know, it's not real. It goes into a child's soul, and it's very hard to take out. We don't want a child who's numb to violence, immorality, dishonesty, because then you're taking away his humanity. So it should be, most things should be active. Helping out in the house, older children helping younger siblings, and as a reward, they should be taken into the family decision making. What do you think? You have a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old child who has a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old. You consult him or her. Give them that sense of respect, and they will return it in that way. How healthy should families be eating under these circumstances? Well, it depends how really unhealthy it is. Children misbehave if they eat too much sugar. They become obese if they ate too much fat, too much, even sugar. It's very fattening. Now we don't have time to go into the details. If it's to an extreme degree, so then it's a problem. But I would not say if it's not to an extreme degree, now is the time to take care of that. We can't fight on too many fronts at the same time. When to ask for professional help for problems with children. If you see a pattern, then you have to get help. It's not shameful to ask for help. This is a very horrific world we're facing. Even before this happened, the family was being assaulted. The family is under siege. You can get help. Now, as far as discipline, so it's not our subject now. I'm going to recommend 2 books to you. One is Love and Logic. You can find it on your Genie, which is what I call an iPhone. I don't know the books perfectly. I'm not well read, but what I've seen makes sense to me. There's also another book called The Difficult Child. It's the only time I basically ever sat down to read a book on parenting, because someone very close to me named Jonathan Reich asked me about it, and I read it on a flight to the United States. I miss Santiago. I miss the people there. I feel close. I'm not getting on an airplane. Okay? It's one of the worst places to be, even if Chile was safe. Okay? As far as fathers not really helping children with the homeschooling when needed. Así es la vida. Please, Daniel, please translate that into Spanish. Yeah? Yeah? Okay? So, you have to have time with your spouse. Maybe this is something good about a car. Now, I don't know whether you're allowed to leave your house, even in a car, but I know in Daniel Segal's parking lot, it says mantener silencio. So you can't scream at each other in a car, okay? Have time together to appreciate each other, to share your day, to discuss things when the other one knows I respect where you are, even if I disagree, even if I have other things. It's very important. If a husband has less of a standard of Judaism, as long as he's not actively encouraging his children to be secular, he can be himself. It's okay. You have peace together. And the children see we learn how to get along with people who are different than us. In every single home, it's like that. Reb Chaim Friedlander Zatzal was one of the great paragons of Shalom Bayis. Yeah? And he wrote a pamphlet on it. He said, men and women are different. He was a great Jew. And then that time doesn't allow me now to continue. Our time is basically up, okay? As far as the halachas of tzedakah, look, I'm not going to paskin. You have rabbonim, yeah? But don't do something that's going to anger your husbands. There's a famous story. Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld received a nice donation for the Jews of Jerusalem from a woman in Europe. I think it was Moravia and Central Europe. He refused to take the money. Maybe her husband doesn't know about this. So he refused to accept it, and he sent it back. It turned out that the husband did not know about it and did not want his wife to do it. But when he saw the rabbi's response, he says, please, okay? There's halacha here. So just show your husbands, I just realized that I'm talking just to women, okay? You just realize, love your husband, respect your husband, care about him, understand him, hear him out. And there's a very good chance that he'll do the same for you. Now, could be you married a lunatic? Probably not. So with a lunatic, you have to go find out how to manage a lunatic. If he's Asperger's, so then you have to consult professionals, not the internet, on how to deal with the Asperger. Okay, this could happen. Okay? But generally speaking, you married someone who has a heart, has a mind, has feelings, has opinions. He wants to be respected. They shouldn't look at religion, if he's not so strong in it, as something you'll disrespect him. Please, please. Rashach was very clear about this. I spoke to someone named Tress from Toronto. Firsthand, he knew the situation. Just love and respect. That you can't agree to averos, but you don't have a chiyuch mechanech your husband. In fact, you don't have a chiyuch mechanech your child when they're over 12 and 13, but that's not our subject now. Of course, you take care of them. Show him love, respect, understanding, hear him out. And for the children's sake, we're in a time of emergency now. Just the children have no place to go. Their home should be a place, chof miftachim, safe harbor. Very important. They will listen to their home and they'll love their home and they'll respect it. Will they try other things? Maybe, but they will find out quickly that there's no place like home. Okay? And we now have a couple of minutes para sus preguntas. Is that right, mi jefe? Daniel?
Yes. Creo que ahora me pueden escuchar todos de nuevo. Yeah, so Rebbe will open up for questions, and now I won't go to the live translation anymore. I'll just translate by chunks because it's too hard to go back and forth. So,
Am I speaking too quickly?
No, it's fine, it's perfect. So, entonces, si alguien tiene pregunta ahora, si pueden desmutear su micrófono, creo que se puede, o yo mismo, de hecho, puedo permitirles hacer eso.
Cultivar
Ya,
Chile.
pero tengan ojo porque ahora se abrieron algunos micrófonos que no deberían estar abiertos, parece. Entonces, si alguien tiene alguna pregunta, la puede hacer ahora. Rebbe has to remember that people in Chile don't ask questions, so we have to wait like some uncomfortable 20, 30 seconds and then people will ask. O pueden escribirlo también si es que se sienten más cómodos escribiéndolo. ¿No? ¿Preguntas? Está en silencio, Rabanit.
1,000 Tiskul mitzvot.
Yeah, mil disculpas. Yes.
I know what room you're in, and mi cuarto, and you know what room I'm in.
Right, yeah. Okay, Rabanit, ¿querías decir algo?
Sí, primero quería decir muchas gracias, un gran Iyar Koach Rav por la clase, for this class. It was really amazing to hear, always with the Chokhmah, with such Chokhmat Chaim, Nisayon Chaim, Chokhmat Torah. Thank you so
כשאני
much.
שמעתי שאת מעורבת פה, מאוד שמחתי. יש לך בשכל, אני זוכר ארוחת הבוקר שהיה לנו. יפה מאוד. את מעורבת פה, אז ודאי צריך להיות טוב.
תודה רבה, תודה
Me
רבה.
está mandando preguntas por chat, por si acaso, por interno.
Ya, perfecto. Yo también, Rav Dani, quería hacer una pregunta. Voy a hacerla en
Ya.
español, si tú puedes traducir al Rav.
Ujú.
Mi pregunta es para niños en edad de 12 años, que está estudiando Baruch Hashem Torah y está dedicando mucho de su tiempo a estudiar, y le damos media hora al día de que ve algo o que juega con su celular, con el celular que tenemos. ¿Cuál es menos grave? ¿El media hora de jugar o el ver algo? Obviamente que son cosas controladas.
So she's asking for a boy
12-year-old.
that's 12-year-old, right? So and he's a very good boy. He's learning most of the day. He's really involved in very positive
That's
things.
what she said, I know, yeah.
And they allow him to have 30 minutes a day where he can either watch something passively on a screen or play something interactive, a game on a smartphone. Which would be better, considering those two options? Obviously on a safe phone where there's no danger to anything bad. But what's better?
Okay, so a very wise Jew in Jerusalem told me that for recess time, they should play things that will not carry into their room, into the learning again. A game that he plays, he'll still be thinking about. Can he score more or score less? How can he get better? How is the game?
Mhm.
But when he watches something passively, so there's less chance he's going to have it in his mind afterwards. Okay,
Entonces,
so I would say if it's, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Entonces el Rab dijo que para que un yehudí muy sabio en Jerusalén una vez le dijo que para los juegos en el recreo, en el colegio, por ejemplo, es mejor jugar algo que no los deje involucrados en ese juego cuando vuelven a las clases. Entonces, en este ejemplo que dio la Rabanit, sería mejor que haga algo pasivo, si bien eso obviamente tiene algunos temas, pero es mejor que haga algo pasivo, porque si hace algo como un juego, cuando vuelva a sus estudios o deje de estar en ese juego, va a seguir preocupado de cuántos puntos sacó, cuántos puntos tiene que sacar, cuánto más puede ganar, etc. Entonces, sería mejor algo pasivo. Rabbi, so I'll read
His example was a chess game or a chapter from an exciting book. He said, don't do that. He's still thinking about the chess game. He's in the middle of a chess game. Okay.
Entonces, el ejemplo que dio
There was none of this stuff in Yerushalayim years ago. We're talking about 40 years ago.
Esta pregunta fue hace 40 años en Yerushalayim, entonces las opciones que Serrab hablaba era un partido de ajedrez o un libro muy interesante. Entonces decía que era mejor el libro, por mucho que fuera interesante, porque el partido de ajedrez iba a estar metido todavía ahí en el partido cuando volvía a clase. Rabbi, I'll read.
Our chess game.
Yeah. Un juego de ajedrez, sí, that's chess game. I'll read some of the questions. Entraron hartas preguntas por privado, así que voy a tener que elegir. So the first question, and it seems to be an important one, is how to manage fights between siblings. Cómo manejar peleas entre los hermanos.
You never take sides. You don't know what happened yesterday, and you don't know what happened the day before. Everyone, especially children, thinks they're right. Don't take sides. Or you say, in the nuestra casa, we don't hit, we don't scream at each other. If you can't get along, so then separate and do something else separately. And no side can explain to you, in quotes, that, oh, you know what happened? I love you both. I will not take sides. But there are rules on how to fight also. You want to come and see what we can do. I wouldn't even offer solutions. I would just ask them, what do you think? Now, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and think about how could we work this out? And they should come back and they have something. You give them very big hugs. Wow, that's an amazing solution. And this is what we should do. Do not get involved in telling them what your solution is or saying who's right or wrong. Never. And Daniel, you never hear me say never. Okay? But you probably heard this answer already once.
Yes, en resumen, el Rab dijo que la regla general es que uno nunca toma lados, o sea, nunca se pone del lado de uno de los dos hermanos o hermanas. Uno no tiene idea de lo que pasó antes, lo que pasó ayer. Incluso si uno tiene, dice el Rab a veces, un circuito cerrado de televisión con cámaras en todos lados y uno cree que sabe todo, uno no tiene que elegir de qué lado está, sino que uno simplemente dice que la regla de la casa es que no se pelea, que no se pega, y que incluso las peleas hay una forma de solucionarlo y lo pueden hablar contigo, pero tú no tienes que tomar el lado de ninguno de los dos, sino que simplemente insistir en que hay ciertas cosas que no se hacen y buscar una forma de solucionarlo, pero no decir quién está bien y quién está mal, no escuchar la versión de cada uno para decidir como un juez quién es el que tiene razón. So another question was, how do you do when your husband is an atheist and at home things are celebrated, are done anyway, but he's not a believer, and it's not spoken at home, even though we do certain things. La pregunta era, ¿cómo se hace cuando un marido es ateo y en la casa igual se celebran las cosas, pero no es creyente y no se habla de Torah?
If you have big competition, you have to have a good product. Maybe a big brother, maybe a school that the child enjoy, and they have only one school. But there should be people who are the father in this area. Never undermine the father. The father cannot feel threatened or disrespected because of his beliefs, because then he'll proselytize, he'll missionize his feelings. Please, he's an atheist. Okay, where's he coming from? There are people who are atheists, and we need to understand them. There's someone in Israel who was called Tommy Lapid. He was a violently anti-religious person, and now his son, Yair Lapid, is the head of an anti-religious party. People don't mention that Tommy Lapid went through the Holocaust. That's not mentioned in, wait a minute. I have to fight him. I have to defend myself, but it's technical. So he's an atheist. So maybe he had reason to be an atheist. I had a student once, many years ago. She was becoming more religious and closer to Torah, and her father said to her, you could do anything you want in your life except become a religious Jew. This man held a very high position as a psychologist in a very important organization in the United States, without giving a public share too many details. And I couldn't understand how such an intelligent person can be so passionately anti-religious. And I found out later that he had Judaism shoved down his throat as a kid. Okay? Do not judge him. That's where he is. Love him. You're married to him. Okay? Respect him, and he'll respect you. He won't want to hurt you vis-a-vis your children. And discussions at the table should be about things he could talk about also. Don't cut him out. Okay? Don't cut him out.
Should I translate?
Okay. Yeah.
Bueno, entonces en resumen lo que dijo fue que uno tiene, de nuevo, uno tiene que entender de dónde viene una persona. Dio el ejemplo de Tommy Lapid, que era un famoso político agresivamente antirreligioso en Israel, y ahora su hijo hoy en día también tiene un partido bastante antirreligioso en Israel, y la gente siempre habla de Tommy Lapid y lo antirreligioso que era, pero se les olvidó mencionar que él era sobreviviente de la Shoah y que tenía, entre comillas, buenos motivos quizás para tener problemas, para creer en Dios. Entonces uno tiene que entender de dónde viene, en este caso la pregunta, el marido, de por qué no cree en Dios, qué es lo que le pasa, cuál fue su crianza, etc. Él tenía una alumna que su papá era era psicólogo de una organización muy importante en Estados Unidos, una persona muy conocida, muy inteligente, y él le decía a su hija que estaba haciendo teshuvá, le decía: tú puedes hacer lo que quieras en la vida excepto hacerte una judía ortodoxa. Y el Rab nunca entendía por qué el papá tenía esta actitud tan agresiva en contra del judaísmo, hasta que un día se enteró de que cuando chico a este papá lo habían obligado a hacer cosas judías, lo habían obligado, le habían enchufado el judaísmo a la fuerza, por decir así, y por eso tenía esa actitud. Y con respecto a la preocupación del impacto que se puede tener sobre los niños, el hecho de que haya un papá ateo, entonces hay que buscar otros modelos, obviamente, para los hijos. Eso no quiere decir que en ningún momento hay que tirar para abajo al papá, faltar el respeto o amenazar su posición de padre de familia, porque obviamente eso lo único que va a generar es más problemas y una actitud más defensiva. Entonces no hay que en ningún sentido amenazar ni disminuir la importancia del papá, pero sí buscar oportunidades en las que los hijos puedan exponerse a figuras de autoridad, o sea, ejemplos como hermanos grandes, entre comillas, un madrijo, un profesor, cosas así, buenos ejemplos de gente sí creyente, en el caso que esa sea la educación que la mamá en este caso le quiere dar. Okay, so I'll read the last question because we're running short on time. There's one about teenagers, just like a general question about teenagers, and one about is quarantine, is lockdown like we're now, is that a moment, is that a time to work on the meters of a kid who has been misbehaving, who has been lowering the level of his meters during the lockdown? So is this the time to work on that?
There's one question I forgot to answer. Now, what meter should be working? What meter should be working on now?
Uh-huh.
And I said, actually included, work on trying to understand where someone else is.
Mm-hmm.
That includes that temporarily insane person called a teenager. Okay.
Entonces, one second. El Rab se le olvidó contestar una de las preguntas que habíamos mandado, que tiene que ver con esta de los adolescentes. Fue una de las preguntas que se hizo, que si el Rab puede hablar un poco de adolescente. Entonces le habían preguntado al Rab qué midá se podía trabajar en esta situación que estamos viviendo, y el Rab dijo que la midá que se podría trabajar es justamente lo que hemos mencionado varias veces, que es tener la sensibilidad de entender dónde está la otra persona, y eso incluye a la gente que está temporalmente loca, como son los adolescentes. Eso lo dijo en broma. Incluso los adolescentes son personas en las que podemos trabajar en tratar de entender qué es lo que están viviendo, por qué es lo que están pasando, y entender de dónde vienen.
He's safe at home. He can't hurt physically, attack physically his younger sibling. That's a red line. Yeah. But he does what he wants to do. He doesn't listen to you. You know something? Don't say things that will not be heard, that will not be obeyed. Stop trying to control him. Just show him mucho respeto and where he's coming from, and he should be able to talk with him. Where are you? And can I be able to help you? This happened beforehand. What was the relationship like beforehand? The Holocaust became much bigger and felt terribly. Two reactions, they were both extreme. It depends what was beforehand. This is a subject we don't have time to go into, but Bez Hashem, I hope you understand. Right now, your meter you're working on is trying to understand where someone else is, and that includes even someone who's temporarily insane, like a teenager.
Entonces, lo que dijo es que siempre van a haber líneas rojas que incluso un adolescente no puede cruzar, o sea, no puede pegarle a un hermano o hermana menor, y hay ciertas reglas hay ciertas líneas rojas, pero en general hay que tratar de dejarlos tranquilos dentro de lo que uno pueda, no decir cosas, no tratar de dar instrucciones o reglas que igual no se van a escuchar, igual no se van a decir, eso no sirve para nada. Entonces hay que trabajar en la mirada de entender de dónde viene, incluso si es que está temporalmente loco, ¿no es cierto?, por la adolescencia, y más allá de las reglas claras que no se pueden transgredir, no hay que, digamos, hacer, digamos, reglas excesivas que no se van a escuchar. Can we ask one last question, because I'm getting lots of them, but does Rebbe have time for one more?
Usted mi jefe. Usted mi jefe.
Okay. Okay, so there's one about how to, the new school modality of online school creates a reality that a lot of kids are spending countless hours now in front of the screen, which they weren't before, and even socializing is done through the screen, because even when they want to meet friends, they have to do it through a screen. So the question just says, how do we manage the amount of hours in front of the screen? La pregunta era cómo manejar la cantidad de horas frente al notebook, frente al computador, ahora que todo es frente al computador, incluso la vida social.
I have two words to say. Daniel Halpern. And you should pay him. But it's very, very hard. It's hard. Two words, Daniel Halpern. Maybe have him give a class. But pay him, in my opinion.
Dice que tiene solo dos palabras para decir, que son Daniel Halpern. Dice que si es necesario que hay que entonces pagarle para que haga clases, pero es una situación muy compleja, muy difícil, y eso es una de las soluciones, tratar de que alguien como Daniel Halpern nos ayude. Okay, so last question.
We often do not appreciate people who live near us. I'm a Grand Rabbiner when I come to Santiago. But people who live there all the time, well, who are they? Rav Miller said that the person who was least respected in the place where the Chofetz Chaim was least respected was in Radin. Okay, so I'm a Grand Rabbiner, but I don't live there. He's a special person. He's a great person. Appreciate him.
El Rav está diciendo que muchas veces la gente donde menos apreciada lo está diciendo por Danny Halpern, es en el lugar en el que viven. Dice que el Chafetz Chaim, en el lugar en el que menos famoso era en Radin, su ciudad de origen, y el Rav dice de sí mismo, claro, cuando voy a Chile yo soy un gran rabino, pero acá en Yerushalayim la gente dice como, ¿quién es este? Entonces, no porque viva en nuestra comunidad significa que no tenemos que apreciar realmente lo que nos puede aportar. Okay, so the last question would be just a general question of if any recommendations Rebbe could give for toddlers. A lot of people here with toddlers. That was the general question. La pregunta es una pregunta general sobre...
And what's the problem?
I don't know, because the person just texted me recommendations for toddlers, please.
I know my grandchild, I'm sorry, great-grandchild, yeah, was afraid of people who had masks. And now she's not afraid anymore. People, things. They need peace. They need happiness. They need good, happy music, not bang, 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 bang music. Happy music, yeah? Lilting music, okay? Daniel, you're a Levi. You know about music, good music, okay? And you know how I feel about the really bad music, the Jewish rock and roll. Not good for kids. Makes them cry, makes them wild.
Okay, I'm
okay.
Yeah, we're starting to lose Rebbe's connection, which I think was what Rebbe said was going to happen. Pero la respuesta fue básicamente de un ejemplo que su bisnieto, cuando partió esto, le tenía miedo a las máscaras y ahora ya se acostumbró. Lo que está tratando de decir es que en el fondo los niños, si hay un ambiente de paz y de alegría, pueden adaptarse a situaciones que son difíciles. Entonces él recomienda cosas como escuchar música alegre, no música rápida o como un poco violenta, así como alguna música judía hoy en día, sino que música alegre, música positiva, música buena, y en general generar un ambiente positivo en la casa, eso sería una buena solución. This is really the last question because it's someone very close to me, so I have to say it. Esto es solo porque alguien que tiene pituto conmigo. Dice, okay, the question is, what happens with husbands that are too tough on kids during lockdown? Meaning they are too, they give them too much tojaja. I don't know what the word in English is right now, but the woman doesn't agree, and the husband is too tough. La pregunta es si el marido reta mucho a los niños en cuarentena.
She has to find a quiet time when she can explain to him how the child feels. He can achieve the same things in a softer way. Yeah, she has to take a time where he should try, he doesn't realize how that child feels when he's tough with him. Okay, tough emotionally. Okay, he just forgets. Yeah, the word is rebuke. That he has to know how that person is going to feel. So again, otra vez, the thing to work on now in your midot is where is the other person? What are they feeling? It's not normal times. They can have not normal feelings. That goes for your husband, and that goes also for the child. Show him, not show him, explain to him. Let's take a moment and feel what he's feeling when his Abba talks to him like that. And maybe there's another way of saying it, but not in front of the other children.
Okay.
Yeah?
Entonces dijo que hay que buscar un momento de tranquilidad, de paz, en el que en este caso la señora pueda explicarle al marido lo que ella siente, cómo se sienten los niños cuando el papá les habla de forma que es emocionalmente fuerte, porque no es que que de forma, hay cosas técnicas que uno sí puede decir, reglas que yo, pero cuando un papá es más fuerte y reta más fuerte en términos emocionales, eso puede ser difícil. Entonces, de la misma forma que el papá tiene que tratar de entender que estamos viendo una situación difícil y que los niños quizá van a estar más sensibles a ciertas actitudes más, no sé cómo decirlo, más brígidas del papá, entonces el mismo ejercicio tiene que hacer la esposa también, de tratar de entender que para el marido también, ¿no es cierto?, esta es una situación difícil, también está pasando por una dificultad. Entonces lo importante es buscar un momento de calma en el que la mujer, en este caso, pueda transmitirle a este marido cómo ella cree que los niños se sienten cuando el papá es así y cómo esas mismas cosas se pueden lograr de forma más pacífica, de forma más amorosa.
And one more thing, the wife has to be able to project what's the pattern, when is this most likely to happen, and do it beforehand.
Muy importante también encontrar cuál es el patrón, o sea, tratar de ver de cuándo es el patrón de cuándo esto sucede, y de esa forma ella va a poder prevenir desde antes, cuando sabe que, entre comillas, se viene, entonces entender que hay un patrón y así poder ayudarlo a salir de ese patrón.
And it's important that she show him she understands him, and maybe he's right. It's just the form, the style that's the problem. She shouldn't get into a fight with him whether he's right or wrong. Okay?
Agregó que también es importante que ella lo entiende a él también, y tratar de, en el fondo, de ayudarlo a entender que ella entiende cómo se siente y que ella que incluso está de acuerdo con lo que se está diciendo, en el fondo con lo que se está tratando de lograr, pero que el problema es en la forma y no necesariamente en el fondo. Ok. Rabanit, quizás quieres hacer la despedida tú, no sé, yo estoy acá de traductor nomás.
Okay, gran tarde.
Una gran tarde, sí. Thank you very much, Rabbi.
Thank you very much, Rab.
Okay.
We really appreciate this class and your time. Thank you so much. Besorot tovot. Muchas gracias a todas por estar aquí.
I feel close. Thank you.
Thank you.
Connection to people in Chile. And Makish Karov. Okay?
תודה רבה.
Okay.
כוח גדול.
Okay. Muchas gracias.
Now, in 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah, Rabbi, I'll arrange the other thing. I'll call Rabbi right now.
Okay.
Okay. Gracias a todos. Chao, chao.
Muchas gracias, Rav Dani.